Hi, my name is Annie, and welcome to the Walking Word, where we go through the Holy Bible in a year as part of discipling. We are currently reading the book of Judges. Today, let's finish off with chapter 20, where the Israelites are assembling. Actually, we are about to finish the book of Judges. Ha! The book of Judges ends with chapter 21. So let's just stay strong. Stay strong. Let's finish the book. The assembly of the Israelites. Chapter 20. So all the Israelites came out as one man from Dan to Beersheba, and from the land of Gilead. The community was gathered to the Lord at Mizpah. The leaders of all the people and all the tribesmen of Israel, 400,000 foot soldiers who were swordsmen, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God. Meanwhile, the Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked to be told how the crime had taken place. Remember this woman who we just read about in chapter 19? Such a fierce story that you have to read over and over again. And so the Benjamites, so of course the tribe of Dan has now gone to wage war, but the Benjamites hear that they're going for war, so they're inquiring, yo, what happened, our brothers? Do you need help? Meanwhile, the Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked to be told how the crime had taken place, and the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, whew, testified, my concubine and I went to Gibeah of Benjamin for that night. But the citizens of Gibeah rose up against me by night and surrounded the house in which I was. Which I was. Me, they attempted to kill, and my concubine they abused so that she died. So I took my concubine and cut her up and sent her through the So I took my concubine and cut her up and sent her through every part of the territory of Israel. Remember, cut her off in 12 pieces, one for each tribe of Israel, because of the monstrous crime they had committed in Israel. Now that you are all here, O Israelites, state what you propose to do. All the people rose as one man to say, none of us is to leave for his tent or return to his home. Now, as for Gibeah, this is what we will do. We'll proceed against it by lot, taking from all the tribes of Israel 10 men of every 100, 100 for every 1,000, and 1,000 for every 10,000, and procuring supplies for the soldiers who will go to deal fully and suitably with Gibeah of Benjamin for the crime it committed in Israel. When therefore all the men of Israel without exception were leagued together against the city, the tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin to say, what is this evil which has occurred among you? Oh my goodness. Now give up these corrupt men of Gibeah, that we may put them to death and thus purge the evil out of Israel. But the Benjamites refused to accede to the demand of their brothers, the Israelites. Instead, the Benjamites assembled from their other cities to Gibeah to do battle with Israelites. Oh my goodness. The number of the Benjamite swordsmen from the other cities on that occasion were 26,000, in addition to the inhabitants of Gibeah, including in this total was 700 picked men who were left-handed, every one of them able to sling a stone at a hair without missing. Meanwhile, whoa, you can imagine, you're able to, with a slingshot, chip, get one piece of hair. I'm not talking about a big strand like this, but one piece, one piece, one piece. That's how meticulous, that's how precise these Benjamites were in war. Okay? Meanwhile, the other Israelites, who without Benjamin mustered 400,000 swordsmen ready for battle, moved on to Bethel and consulted God. When the Israelites asked who should go first in the attack on the Benjamites, the Lord said, Judah shall go first. Always Judah first. The next day, the Israelites advanced on Gibeah with their forces. Judah, the Lion of Judah, let him always go ahead of every battle you're going through. War with Benjamin. On the day the Israelites drew up in battle array at Geber for the combat with Benjamin, the Benjamites came out of the city and felled 22,000 men of Israel. Then the Israelites went up and went before the Lord until evening. Shall I again engage my brother Benjamin in battle? They asked the Lord. And the Lord answered that they should. They should. But though the Israelite soldiers took courage again and drew up for combat in the same place as on the previous day, when they met the Benjamites for the second time, once again the Benjamites came out of Gibeah against them and felled 18,000 Israelites, all of whom were swordsmen. So the entire Israelite army went up to Bethel, where they wept and remained fasting before the Lord until evening of that day, besides offering holocausts and peace offerings before the Lord. When the Israelites consulted the Lord, for the ark of the covenant was there in those days, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, was ministering to him in those days. And asked, Shall I go out again to battle the Benjamites, my brother, or shall I desist? The Lord said, Attack, for tomorrow I will deliver him into your power. So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah. The Israelites went up against the Benjamites for the third time and formed their line of battle at Gibeah as of other occasions. The Benjamites went out to meet them. And in the beginning, they killed off about 30 of 100 Israelite soldiers in the open field, just as the other occasions. Therefore, the Benjamites thought, We are defeating them as before, not realizing that disaster was about to overtake them. The Israelites, however, had planned the flight so as to draw them away from the city onto the highways. They were drawn away from the city onto the highways, of which one led to Bethel, the other to Gibeon. And then all the men of Israel rose from their places. They reformed their ranks at Baal Tamar. And the Israelites in ambush rushed from their place west of Gibeah, 10,000 picked men from all of Israel, and advanced against the city itself. In a fierce battle, the Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel. And on that day, the Israelites killed 25,100 men of Benjamin, all of them swordsmen. To the Benjamites, it had looked as though the enemy were defeated, for the men of Israel gave ground to Benjamin, trusting in the ambush they had set at Gibeah. But then what? But then the men in ambush made a sudden dash into Gibeah, overran it, and put the whole city to the sword. Because remember now the soldiers have been drawn out, so the city has been left bare. Now the other Israelites had agreed with the men in ambush on a smoke signal they were to send up from the city. And though the men of Benjamin had begun by killing off 30 of the men of Israel under the impression that they were defeating them as surely in the earlier fightings, the Israelites wheeled about to resist. As the smoke of the signal column began to rise up from the city, it was when Benjamin looked back and saw that the whole city was in flame against the sky, that the men of Israel wheeled about. Therefore, the men of Benjamin were thrown into confusion, for they realized the disaster that had overtaken them. They retreated before the men of Israel in the direction of the desert, with the fight being pressed against them. In their very midst, meanwhile, those who had been in the city were spreading destruction. The men of Benjamin had been surrounded and were now pursued to the point of east of Gibeah, while 18,000 of the men fell, warriors to a man. The rest turned and fled through the desert of the rock of Rimmon. But on the highways, the Israelites picked off 5,000 men among them, and chasing them up to Gideon, killed another 2,000 of them there. Those of Benjamin who fell on that day in all were 25,000 swordsmen, warriors to a man. But 600 others who turned and fled through the desert reached the rock Rimmon, where they remained for 4 months. Okay. The men of Israel withdrew through the territory of Benjamites, putting to the sword the inhabitants of the city, the livestock, and all they chanced upon, all they had their faith on, all they had to survive on. Moreover, they destroyed by fire all the cities they came upon. That's how that story ends. A story that started with just simple Levite who had a concubine ends this way, in murder and slaughter, and the price we pay for the lives we live. We move on to chapter 21. Let's finish the book of Judges. The wives of the survivors of the Benjamites and all this fiasco.